Nanda Patni, I should have asked you if you'd like to sing the Krishna book song, but your computer is probably not near your piano, right?
I'm muted. Sorry, I'm upstairs at the minute.
Oh, that means you're not near your phone, right?
Yeah, piano's downstairs.
Okay, all right. All right. So would you like to sing the Krishna book song, Nanda Patni, nonetheless?
Yeah, I think I can do that.
Okay. The Krishna book song.
All right.
There we are.
Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. O Lord Krishna, please protect me and maintain me. O Lord Rama, descendant of King Raghu, please protect me. O Krishna, O Keshava, killer of the Keshi demon, please maintain me.
Thank you. Okay, here we are. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvasesha Shunyavani Paschachade Shatarine. Ola, would you like to join us in the reading tonight? Will you be available for that, or are you only a listener? Because we each take turns reading. If they don't respond, I'll assume that they only want to listen. Okay, I have a few comments that I'd like to read as we come to the ending of this story. So why don't we start with you reading first, Krishna Chandra Prabhu, and then Connor Prabhu, and then Nanda Patni, and then Bhavatrini, Hare Krishna Bhavatrini.
Dandava pronounce.
And Jim is here. Great, we got a whole crew here practically.
Nuri Hari had to go to buy cow feed, so he might be able to get online while he's driving. But
Oh, okay.
there's been a big storm, so the internet's not too good.
Oh, all right. So yeah, Krishna Chandra, if you'd like to start, and then after that, Connor Prabhu, and then Nanda Patni, 2 paragraphs each.
With pleasure, Prabhu.
Chapter 35. Okay, go ahead.
Chapter 35. Kamsa sends Akrura for Krishna. Vrindavan was always absorbed in the thought of Krishna. Everyone remembered his pastimes and was constantly merged in the ocean of transcendental bliss. But the material world is so contaminated that even in Vrindavan, the asuras or demons try to disturb the peaceful situation. One demon named Aristasura entered the village like a great bull with a gigantic body and horns, digging up the earth with his hooves. When the demon entered Vrindavan, it appeared that the whole land trembled as if there were an earthquake. He roared fiercely, and after digging up the earth on the riverside, he entered the village proper. The fearful rolling of the bull was so piercing that some of the pregnant cows and women had miscarriages. Its body was so big, stout, and strong. Excuse me, I think we're going to need to scroll it further, please. Thank you. That even a cloud.
Did I go too far? Excuse me.
I feel like you did. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Its body was so big, stout, and strong that a cloud hovered over its body, just as clouds hover over mountains. Aristasura entered Vrindavan with such a fearful appearance that just on seeing this great demon, all the men and women were afflicted with great fear, and the cows and other animals fled the village.
The situation became very terrible, and all the inhabitants of Vrindavan began to cry, Krishna, Krishna, please save us. Krishna also saw that the cows were running away, and he immediately replied, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. He then appeared before Aristasura and said, you are the lowest of living entities. Why are you frightening the inhabitants of Gokula? What will you gain by this action? If you have come to challenge my authority, then I am prepared to fight you. In this way, Krishna challenged the demon, and the demon became very angry by the words of Krishna. Krishna stood before the bull, resting his hand on the shoulder of a friend. The bull began to proceed towards Krishna in anger, digging the earth with its hooves. Aristasura lifted his tail, and it appeared that clouds were hovering above the tail, whose eyes were reddish and moving in anger. Pointing his horns at Krishna, he began to charge him, just like the thunderbolt of Indra. But Krishna immediately caught his horns and tossed him away, just as a gigantic elephant repels a small, inimical elephant. Although the demon appeared to be very tired, and although he was perspiring, he took courage and got up. Again, he charged Krishna with great force and anger. While rushing towards Krishna, he breathed very heavily. Krishna again caught his horns and immediately threw him on the ground, breaking his horns. Krishna then began to kick his body just as one squeezes a wet cloth on the ground. Being thus kicked by Krishna, Aristasura rolled over and began to move his legs violently. Bleeding, passing stool and urine, his eyes starting from their sockets, he passed the kingdom of death.
Was that one
Uh,
paragraph? Or-
No, 2 paragraphs each.
The demigods and the celestial planets began to shower flowers on Krishna for his wonderful achievement. Krishna was already the life and soul of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, and after killing his demon in the shape of the bull, he became the cynosure of all eyes. With Balaram, he triumphantly entered Vrindavana village, and the inhabitants glorified him and Balaram with great jubilation. When a person performs some wonderful feat, his kinsmen and relatives and friends naturally become jubilant.
It was after this incident that the great sage Narada disclosed the secret of Krishna. Narada Muni is generally known as Devadarshan, which means that he can be seen only by the demigods or persons on the same level with the demigods. But Narada visited Kamsa, who was not at all on the same level of the demigods, and yet Kamsa saw him. Of course, Kamsa also saw Krishna, what to speak of Narada Muni, but generally one must have purified eyes to see the Lord and his devotees. Of course, by association with a pure devotee, one can derive an imperceptible benefit, which is called agyata sukriti. He cannot understand how he's making progress, and yet he makes progress by seeing the devotee of the Lord. Narada Muni's mission was to finish things quickly. Krishna appeared to kill the demons, and Kamsa was the chief among them. Narada wanted to expedite things, therefore he immediately approached Kamsa with all the real information. You are to be killed by the 8th son of Vasudeva, Narada told Kamsa. Can you scroll up, Gaura? Thank you. That 8th son is Krishna. You were misled by Vasudeva into believing that the 8th issue of Vasudeva was a daughter. Actually, the daughter was born of Yashoda, the wife of Nanda Maharaj, and Vasudeva exchanged the daughter, so you were misled. Krishna is the son of Vasudeva, as is Balaram. Being afraid of your atrocious nature, Vasudeva has tactfully hidden them in Vrindavan out of your sight. Narada further informed Kamsa, Krishna and Balaram have been living incognito in the care of Nanda Maharaj. All the Asuras, your companions, who were sent to Vrindavan to kill different children, were all killed by Krishna and Balaram. As soon as Kamsa got this information from Narada Muni, he took out his sharpened sword and prepared to kill Vasudeva for his duplicity. But Narada pacified him. "You're not to be killed by Vasudeva," he said. "Why are you so anxious to kill him? Better try to kill Krishna and Balaram." But in order to satisfy his wrath, Kamsa arrested Vasudeva and his wife and shackled them in iron chains. Acting on the new information, Kamsa immediately called for the Keshi demon and asked him to go to Vrindavan immediately to fetch Balaram and Krishna. Scroll, scroll, scroll. In actuality, Kamsa asked Keshi to go to Vrindavan to be killed by Krishna and Balaram and thus get salvation. Then Kamsa called for the expert elephant trainers, Chanura, Mustika, Shala, and Toshala, etc. And he told them, "My dear friends, try to hear me attentively. At Nanda Maharaj's place in Vrindavan, there are two brothers, Krishna and Balaram. They are actually the two sons of Vasudeva. And as you know, I've been destined to be killed by Krishna. There's a prophecy to this effect. Now I'm requesting you to arrange for a wrestling match. People from different parts of the country will come to see the festival, and I will arrange to get those two boys here, and you will try to kill them in the wrestling arena."
That was two paragraphs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Bhavatrini and then Jivan Mukta. Can't hear anything. Bhavatrini, are you going to read?
It didn't unmute. I pushed the unmute, but it didn't work.
Okay.
Now I got it. Wrestling matches are still enjoyed by the indigenous people in the northern part of India. And it appears from the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam that 5,000 years ago, wrestling was popular. Kamsa planned to arrange such a wrestling competition and to invite people to visit. He also told the trainers of the elephants, "Be sure to bring the elephant named Kuvalyapita and keep him at the gate of the wrestling camp. Try to capture Krishna and Balaram on their arrival and kill them." Kamsa also advised his friends to arrange to worship Lord Shiva by offering animal sacrifices and performing the sacrifice called Dhanur Yagna, and the sacrifice performed on the 14th day of the moon, known as Chaturdasi. This date falls 3 days after Ekadasi and is set aside for the worship of Lord Shiva. One of the plenary portions of Lord Shiva is called Kalabhairava. This form of Lord Shiva is worshipped by the demons who offer skinned animals before him. The process is still current in India in a place called Vaidyanath Dham, where the demons offer animal sacrifices to the deity of Kalabhairava. Kamsa belonged to this demonic group. He was also an expert diplomat, and so he quickly arranged for his demon friends to kill Krishna and Balaram.
Jiva Mukta Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. He then called for Akrura, one of the descendants in the family of Yadu, in which Krishna was born as the son of Vasudeva. When Akrura came to see Kamsa, Kamsa very politely shook hands with him and said, "My dear Akrura, actually, I've no better friend than you in the Bhoja and Yadu dynasties. You're the most munificent person. So as a friend, I am begging charity from you. Actually, I have taken shelter of you exactly as King Indra takes shelter of Lord Vishnu. I request you to go immediately to Vrindavan and find the two boys named Krishna and Balaram. They are sons of Nanda Maharaj. Take this nice chariot, especially prepared for the boys, and bring them here immediately. That is my request to you. Now, my plan is to kill these two boys. As soon as they come in the gate, there will be a giant elephant named Kuvalayapita awaiting, and possibly he will be able to kill them. But if somehow or other they escape, they will next meet the wrestlers and will be killed by them. That is my plan. And after killing these two boys, I shall kill Vasudev and Nanda, who are supporters of the Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties. I shall also kill my father, Ugrasena, and his brother, Devaka, because they are actually my enemies and are hindrances to my diplomacy and politics. Thus I shall get rid of all my enemies. Jarasandh is my father-in-law, and I have a great monkey friend named Dvivida. With their help, it will be easy to kill all the kings on the surface of the world who support the demigods. This is my plan. In this way, I shall be free from all opposition, and it will be very pleasant to rule the world without obstruction. You may know also that Shambhara, Narakasura, and Banasura are my intimate friends, and when I begin this war against the kings who support the demigods, they will help me considerably. Surely I shall be rid of all my enemies. Please go immediately to Vrindavan and encourage the boys to come here to see the beauty of Mathura and take pleasure in the wrestling competition.
Is there anybody after you? I'm just wondering. Or is that everyone?
That was everyone.
I think you're the last one. Okay. Jivamukti, I might as well just read the last part, Prabhu.
Okay. After hearing this plan of Kamsa's, Akrura replied, "My dear king, your plan is very excellently made to counteract the hindrances to your diplomatic activities, but you should maintain some discretion or your plans will not be fruitful. After all, man proposes, God disposes. We may make very great plans, but unless they are sanctioned by the supreme authority, they will fail. Everyone in this material world knows that the supernatural power is the ultimate disposer of everything. One may make a very great plan with his fertile brain, but he must know that he will become subjected to the fruits, misery, and happiness. But I have nothing to say against your proposal. As a friend, I shall carry out your order and bring Krishna and Balaram here as you desire." After instructing his friends in various ways, Kamsa retired, and Akrura went to Vrindavan. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 35th chapter of Krishna. Kamsa sends Akrura for Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, according to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that Aristasura, the bull demon, symbolizes disregard for bhakti and attraction for cheating religion. Weak-hearted, show-bottle devotees give up the path of Vaidhi Bhakti and try to enter the path of Raganuga Bhakti. But when they are unable to realize rasa, they behave like Aristasura by cultivating perverted material activities. These unfortunate persons will certainly meet Krishna, not in the form of the affectionate coward boy of Raj, but in the form of death. So does anyone have any reflections on this chapter, please? Comments, questions? Anything jump out at you while we're reading?
It did, but
Kaksa-
I forgot what it
Sorry,
was.
go ahead.
I
See?
did, but I forgot what it was. I was saying, oh, I'd like to say something about that, and then I forgot.
Well, yeah, I find it's helpful to keep a little notebook handy. And
Right.
so
But I was
I can-
actually reading it at the time, so I could have written it down after.
Okay, I mean, would it help if I
Oh, sure.
scrolled it back?
Yeah.
So do you remember how far we were?
It was great. It's after, that's where we started.
Right.
Well,
So-
I thought that if people enjoy seeing fighting, I wouldn't enjoy seeing Aristasura killed. It sounded ghastly. and disgusting. So I thought it was interesting that Kamsa shook Akrura's hand. Oh, that's the picture.
That's the original art.
Yes. It
Like
doesn't, yeah, it's not as bad as the description.
And then there's one here done by a Dutch artist.
Mhm.
Yes, so you were saying Kamsa shook Akrura's hand?
Hands with Akrura. They shook hands. When he came, he shook his hand.
Right? Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, Haribol. So I've never seen people in India shaking hands. So I thought that was interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone know what was the relationship between Akrura and Kamsa? Because Akrura is, in relation to Krishna, is Akrura like an uncle? What is his relationship, Akrura's relationship with Krishna? Does anyone know?
I don't know. Nandapatni, do you know? Akrura's
I don't know,
relationship.
actually. Yeah, I should, but I don't.
I think he's related to Krishna, though, isn't he?
Yeah, I thought so.
Uncle. Oh, and so Devaka is the brother of Ugrasena. So that's right, because Vasudeva is in Kamsa's kingdom. So Devaki's father must be Devaka. Is that correct?
That sounds right, because she's
Right.
Kamsa's sister.
Right. And Ugrasena is so Yashoda and Devaki are related,
Mhm.
and Ugrasena and Vasudeva and Nanda Maharaj are all related. But I've got a little confused recently.
Yeah, Akrura was an uncle of Krishna, but is respected more as a worshiper of Krishna. He is mentioned in the Mahabharata that he rose to fame as a commander in the Yadu army.
Mm.
Descendant of the Vrishni Kula clan. His worship is Sri Akrurji Maharaj by the Varshe community, or I guess Vrishni community, and is also known as Babru. It's another name of Akrura.
Oh, we have a godbrother, Babru, who's now
He's right
ashram,
there.
Bhakti Ashram.
He's making sourdough bread for Sri Panchatattva, and he cleans the toilets. He's such a humble sannyasi. He cleans the toilets. He told me.
He's one of the first devotees I met at the Honolulu temple when I was.
He told me that him and Kusha at the same time were made Bhakta and Bhaktin by Govinda Dasi.
Right. Govinda Dasi also was real prominent in my beginning days, but I had to leave Hawaii.
Akrura names means one who was not cruel. One of the 12 sons born to Swapalka and Gandhini. Akrura married Sutanu, who was the daughter of Ahuka, and with her had sons Devaka and Updevaka. He resigned at Dwarka and Pargater. He resigned at Dwarka. Kamsa ruled over the area as king, being based in the capital of Mathura, prophesied to be killed by the king by Lord Krishna. He ordered Akrura to go and invite the cowherd boy to Mathura. He thus had a desire to see Krishna and Baladev, his brother, killed. Kangsa was earlier witness to Akasha Vani, a celestial announcement from the skies suggesting that he would meet his and from the 8th of Devaki's sons, Krishna. To achieve this, and he ordered Akrura to bring them from Ambadi, where they were staying, on the pretext of an invitation to view a ceremony known as worshipping the bow.
What are you reading, Gora?
These are quotations from Mahabharata about Akrura.
Oh, okay. Which Mahabharata?
Oh, I'd have to do more research to see the source.
Oh, you're just Googling, huh? Okay.
Yeah, he rose to fame as a commander of the Yadava army.
Yeah.
And he was present for the Swayamvara wedding of Draupadi. And go give some history like that. Welcome, Nichalila. Thank you for coming.
Haribol Nichalila. Hare Krishna.
Jivan Mukta Prabhu, any thoughts from you regarding what we've just heard on Krishna killing Aristasura?
I was just thinking how this is the background to the very pitiful pastime of and the heartbreak that the gopis are going to be going through. Akrura is the catalyst, well, of course, there's this whole series of events, but this Akrura going to Vrindavan is just devastation for the gopis. Mm-hmm. Not just the gopis, but all the residents. This is like the end of, this is a catastrophe waiting to happen for the residents of Vrindavan. Mm-hmm. I mean, forget Aristasura, Keshi demon, like all these demons. Like this Akrura, it is like their nightmare.
Would you use the word nemesis? I think nemesis means enemy, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course. And Akrura, and it's interesting because his name means, not cruel, right? But he's being used in the most cruel way. Like he's being actually, he's going to bring upon the residents of Vrindavan unimagined cruelty in their hearts.
I was wondering why he just so quickly accepted. I mean, I've read that he wanted to see Krishna and Balaram, so he didn't care how he was seeing them, but I wondered why he was so ready to comply. Kamsa saying, yes, and I want to kill them. First, I'm going to have the elephant Kuvalyapita waiting to kill them. And if that doesn't work, the wrestlers are going to kill him. Then I'm going to kill Vasudeva and Devaki and Maharaj and Yashoda. And after that, I'm going to kill my father and his brother and all my enemies. And he just goes, okay.
Right.
They're instigated in the Leela. I was thinking how earlier Narada Muni is kind of spilling the beans. But actually he's just accelerating the Leela.
Right.
And arguably Akrura is the same instrument because it's all, well, not the same, but he's an instrument. You could argue that he's an instrument to instigate Vipralamba in the gopis, which is meant to be the highest form of ras.
That's a very high way to see it. that's a chic way to see it. Yes,
that's the view of our acharyas.
Yeah. Oh, I wrote a song about Kuvalyapita.
I was going to ask you if you wrote a song about Akrura or Aristasura also.
No, just Kuvalyapita. It was a reggae song.
Oh, very cool. Okay,
but I don't know it by heart. I don't remember it.
Can you brush up on it for next time?
I'll see if I can find it. I don't remember much of it at all, but maybe Nuri remembers the chords on the guitar.
Can you consult with him on that, please?
I will.
Yeah. Oh, just to digress for a moment, yesterday was our Nanda Patni's birthday.
So, I know. Happy birthday.
Hare
Mm,
Happy
thank
birthday.
Hare Krishna.
May you never take birth again.
you. Yeah,
Unless it's in Vrindavan as a gopi
exactly.
or a cowherd boy.
Trying to get to my eternal self.
Right. But I wouldn't mind taking birth in Boma Vrindavan.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll hang on to your coattails, Baba Trini.
I was going to hang on to yours.
Oh God, it could be a wrestling match. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I just have a few comments here by our acharyas on this section. Having thus killed the bull demon Arista, he who is a festival for the gopis' eyes entered the cowherd village with Balaram. And here it's described that this verse exemplifies the sublime contrast of spiritual qualities within Sri Krishna. In one 4-line verse, we learn that Lord Krishna killed a powerful and wicked demon, and that his boyish beauty gave festive pleasure to his young girlfriends. Lord Krishna is as hard as the thunderbolt or as soft as a rose, depending on our attitude toward him. The demon Arista wanted to kill Krishna and all his friends. So the Lord beat him into a wet rag and killed him. The gopis, however, loved Krishna, and thus the Lord boyishly reciprocated their conjugal feelings. After Aristasura had been killed by Krishna, who acts wonderfully, Narada Muni went to speak to King Kamsa. That powerful sage of godly vision addressed the king as follows. And it's described in the commentary that the term Deva Darshan can be understood in many ways, all of which are consistent with the context and purport of this narration. Deva means God, and Darshan means seeing, or an audience with a great personality. Thus, Deva Darshan, a name for Narada Muni, indicates that Narada has attained the perfection of seeing God, that getting Narada's audience is as good as getting God's, since Narada is a pure representative of the Lord. And also that Narada's audience is as good as that of the demigods, who are also known as Devas. That there are all these meanings of the term Devadarshan, reveals something of the richness of the Bhagavatam's language. So it's referring to how Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has quoted verses describing a joking conversation between Radha and Krishna that took place after Krishna had killed the demon Arista. This conversation, so kindly quoted by the Acharya, describes the origin of Radha Kund and Shama Kund, Radha's and Krishna's bathing ponds. The verses are as follows. The innocent young gopis, I'm just going to skip the Sanskrit if you don't mind, just to get to the translation. The innocent young gopis said, Krishna, don't touch us now, O killer of a bull. Alas, even though Arista was a terrible demon, still he was a male cow. So you will have to undergo atonement, just as Lord Indra did after killing Vritrasura. But how can you purify yourself without going to the trouble of visiting every single holy place in the 3 worlds? Krishna replied, why should I have to wander throughout the entire universe? I will at once bring all the countless pilgrimage places here and take my bath in them. Just watch. With this, Lord Mukunda struck his heel on the ground. Then he said, this is the water of the Bhogavati river coming from the Patala region. And now, O holy places, all of you, please come here. When the Supreme Lord had spoken these words, all the holy places went there and appeared before him. Krishna then addressed the gopis as follows. See all the holy places. But the gopis replied, we don't see them as you describe. Then those best of holy places, joining your palms in supplication, spoke up. I am the salt ocean. I am the ocean of milk. I am the Amara Dirgika. I am the river Shona. I am the Sindhu. I am the Tamrapani. I am the holy places Pushkar. I am the river Sarasvati. And we are the Godavari, Yamuna, and Reva rivers, and the confluence of rivers at Prayag. Just see our waters. After purifying himself by bathing, Lord Hari became quite arrogant and said, I have produced a pond containing all the various holy places, whereas you, gopis, must never have executed any religious duties on this earth for the pleasure of Lord Brahma. Then Srimati Radharani addressed her girlfriends as follows. I must create an even more beautiful pond, so go to work. Having heard these words, the gopis saw that Aristasura's hooves had dug a shallow ditch just west of Sri Krishna's pond. At that nearby spot, all the gopis began digging up lumps of soft mud with their hands, and in this way, a divine pond manifested in the short span of an hour. Krishna was astonished to see the lake they produced. He said, Go ahead, lotus-eyed one. You and your companions should fill this pond with water from mine. But Radha replied, No, 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 no. This is impossible. Since the water of your pond is contaminated by your terrible sin of killing a cow, I will have my countless gopi companions bring the pure water of the Manasa Ganga here in billions of pots. In this way, I will fill this lake with my own water and thus make its renown unequaled in the entire world. Lord Krishna then gestured to a heavenly personality who was an intimate associate of all the holy places. Suddenly, that person rose up out of Krishna's pond and bowed down to the daughter of Sri Vrishabhanu, Radharani. Then, with palms joined and tears pouring from his eyes, he began praying to her in devotion. O goddess, even Lord Brahma himself, the knower of all scriptures, cannot understand your glories, nor can Lord Shiva or Lakshmi. Only Krishna, the supreme goal of all human endeavor, can understand them. And thus he feels obliged to personally make sure that you can wash away your perspiration when you are fatigued. He is always anointing your lotus feet with nectarine charu and yavaka. I'm not sure what charu or yavaka are. And decorating them with ankle bells. And he rejoices and feels most fortunate simply by satisfying the tips of the toes of your lotus feet. On his order, we have immediately come here to live in the most excellent pond, which he created by one stroke of his heel. But only if you now feel satisfied with us and bestow upon us your merciful glance will the tree of our desire bear fruit. Hearing this prayer, spoken by the representative of the full assembly of holy places, Sri Radha was pleased and said, So kindly tell me your desire. They then told her plainly, Our lives would be successful if we could come to your pond. That is the benediction we desire. Glancing at her beloved from the corners of her eyes, the daughter of Vrishabhanu replied with a smile, Please come. Her gopi companions all agreed with her decision and became immersed in the ocean of happiness. Indeed, the beauty of all creatures, both mobile and stationary, was enhanced. Thus, gaining the grace of Srimati Radharani, the holy rivers and lakes in Sri Krishna Kund forcibly broke through its boundary walls and swiftly filled Radha Kund with their waters. Lord Hari then said, My dear Radha, may this pond of yours become even more world-renowned than mine. I will always come here to bathe and to enjoy my water pastimes. Indeed, this lake is as dear to me as you are. Radha replied, I will come to bathe in your pond as well, even though you may kill hundreds of Arista demons here. In the future, anyone who has intense devotion for this lake, which is on the spot where you chastise Aristasura, and who bathes or resides here, is sure to become very dear to me. That night, Lord Krishna initiated a rasa dance at Radha Kund, generating a torrent of the greatest mood of splendorous pleasure. Sri Krishna resembled a cloud and Srimati Radharani a brilliant flash of lightning, filling the sky with abundant beauty. In this way, their divine glories permeated the expanses of the three worlds. As a final note, it should be mentioned that Narada Muni, being a great sage, understood that the killing of Arista more or less concluded the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. Therefore, Narada, anxious to facilitate the transferal of Krishna's pastimes to Mathura, approached Kamsa and addressed him. And it's described that Kamsa had been led to believe that Krishna was the son of Yashoda and that Devaki's eighth child had been a daughter. The identity of Devaki's eighth child was extremely important to Kamsa because of the prophecy that had foretold her eighth child would kill him. Here Narada, informs the king that the eighth child of Devaki was the formidable Krishna, thus implying that the prophecy should be taken very seriously. Having received this information, Kamsa obviously will now do everything in his power to kill Krishna and Balaram. Narada restrained Kamsa by reminding him that it was the two sons of Vasudeva who would cause his death. Kamsa then had Vasudeva and his wife shackled in iron chains. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that Narada did not act inimically toward the great devotees Vasudeva and Devaki when he revealed this information to Kamsa. In fact, as explained in the 11th canto, Vasudeva was grateful to Narada because he was arranging for Kamsa's death at Krishna's hands and further arranging for Krishna to come and live in Mathura, where his loving father would associate with him.
What are you reading from, Prabhu?
I'm reading from the 10th canto.
Oh, okay.
Commentaries of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I was also thinking that even to this day, people have a fascination with wrestling matches. It's huge.
Well, they're actually on a parikram recently with Indradyumna Swami. It was fascinating. I forget the village, but it was inside, and there was kind of a rubber mat, and it was wrestling. This particular village was all about wrestling, and people were wrestling. Yeah, it was kind of interesting.
From Krishna's time.
Yeah, I mean, it was on the parikram, a holy, site.
As a new bhakta, I remember hearing that Vaishnavas have two sports, swimming and wrestling.
Wow. When in 1986, when they had the huge festival in Mayapur, you were there, right?
1986?
Yes, Lord Chaitanya's 500.
I'm trying to remember.
Anyway,
there
was a wrestling match with devotees and locals at the site. They had a big fairground with Ferris wheels and everything all around the Mayapur temple, and it was like the Navadvip put on the festival for Lord Chaitanya.
Wow.
And our godbrother Keshava entered the wrestling match and won. It was an all India wrestling match.
Oh, he was that good.
He won. But it took place in the Mayapur, but it was an Indian festival mixed in with devotee ISKCON festival.
I think I'll stick to garland making.
Yeah. I don't know how to wrestle or do martial arts.
I could see Jiva and Mukta entering into a wrestling match.
I used to when I was in high school.
You did?
Really?
Oh.
I'm not surprised.
The Olympic style wrestling, you know.
Oh, yeah. My father was a wrestler in high school. He was the captain of the wrestling team, and it was Olympic style.
Well, the daughter takes the qualities of the father, so there must be some wrestling in you, Bhavatrine.
Well, my mother's father used to take all the grandchildren to wrestling matches on Friday night when I was little. One time, one of the wrestlers named Gorgeous George got thrown out of the wrestling arena, and my younger cousin, a 3-year-old, ran all the way down the steps, ran over to him and kissed him. She read the fairy tales when they were unconscious, you kiss them and they
So it runs in your family, wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah, Krishna's family. I'm trying to become part of that family. That's my interest in wrestling.
What's the Olympic style, Jivan Mukta?
It's
There's certain rules.
Yeah, there's certain rules, and it was actually, a tremendous way to keep fit, that's for sure. I mean, it was really challenging. The one-on-one competition also really kind of strengthens your mind, because you have to overcome, it's just you and your opponent. And it's very short matches, but a tremendous amount of exertion and energy that goes into it. So it was very, very fulfilling, satisfying. It was incredible training, again, not just physically, but for your mind. A lot of these sports are, but especially the individual sports, are really tough. You got to really toughen up. It's
personal too.
Yeah. You got to fight your demons. You got to fight your mind wanting to quit and give up. And, it's good training for Krishna consciousness. You can see why it's great for training for brahmacharis and, devotees, and because it really toughens you up.
My youngest son is a mixed martial art. He won the belt for his weight, and no one ever defeated him. But Narayan Maharaj used to talk to him and give him advice before he go to wrestling matches. And
really?
He told the story of a Bengali wrestler that went to Russia to fight this huge champion. And the first thing he did was look at his shoes. I can't remember I'll have to ask my son what the point was, but there were two things about the shoes. One is that the Bengali wrestler could put his foot sideways in the shoe with no problem. The guy's feet were so big.
Wow.
But by looking at his shoes, he was able to know so much about what the wrestler did. So he used his intellect to defeat him, not his strength. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And the other thing is, in the wrestling match, it's described Chanura and Mustika. They're fighting with Balaram and Krishna. And there's one description that says thigh to thigh, chest to chest. And it describes that so many portions of the body are actually pushing against the other person.
Uh-huh.
And one time in the Krishna Bowl, which Prabhupada banned because it got out of hand, we used to play a game like Krishna Bowl, and there was a little timer and someone that watched, and a question would be asked, and if you knew the answer, you'd raise your hand. So they came to that part of the wrestling match, and I knew that by heart. So I, of course, raised my hand or rang the bell or whatever, and then my mind went blank. And we lost the game, and Mula Priti was so mad she chucked me under the chin. And so you can see why Prabhupada quit the Krishna Bowl.
Who hit you under the chin?
Mula Prakriti.
Oh.
She went, Bhavatarini. Like that.
No, because I wanted to ask her, why would Prabhupada stop the Krishna Bowl? I heard about it before, because it was all based on Krishna consciousness.
Because we were all fighting and competing. And then in San Francisco at the Rath Yatra in 73, the Gurukula children came, and they drove all night. And then there was a Krishna Bowl competition with the reigning team of Krishna bowlers. And it went on for hours and hours, and no one stopped to sleep or go to the bathroom.
Wow.
Drink water or eat. It went on for 8 hours, and the Gurukula boys were crying, and it just got ridiculous.
just competing over questions on the Krishna book.
On the Krishna book.
Wow,
Yeah,
yes, go on.
One time they said, Mula Prakriti and I were on the same team. One time they said, is Garuda a vegetarian? And she, for some reason, said yes. And we lost that time. Oh. So that was after she got mad at me for losing.
So it sounds like it really brought out the Rajaguna in everybody.
Right.
That's maybe why Prabhupada.
Yes, and we weren't relishing Krishna book. We were competing with it.
Huh.
And actually, if I remember correctly, I'll have to ask my son, the Gurukula boys won.
Cool. It reminds me of a lot of the I don't know if they have them anymore, but these games they had on television where.
Yeah, that's what we were copying.
Okay.
copying.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Also, let's see. In this, it mentions that in the original Bhagavatam that who was it? Who's speaking?
In original Bhagavatam.
Yeah. It must be Kamsa that says commence the bow sacrifice on the Chaturdasi day in accordance with the relevant Vedic injunctions. In ritual slaughter, offer the appropriate kinds of animals to the magnanimous Lord Shiva. So I'm not familiar with this bow sacrifice that's being made mention. And also, Kamsa says, go to Nanda's village where the two sons of Anakadundubi are living. Anakadundubi is Vasudev's name, isn't it?
Yes.
And without delay, bring them here on this chariot. And the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the following interesting note. When King Kamsa said, with this chariot, he pointed with his index finger to a brand new attractive chariot. Kamsa thought that since Akrura was innocent by nature, when he saw this fine new vehicle, he would naturally want to drive it and quickly bring the two boys back. But the actual reason Akrura went on the new chariot was that it would have been clearly inappropriate for the Supreme Personality of Godhead to mount a chariot that had already been enjoyed by the wicked Kamsa.
Oh.
Interesting. Inner. And
what are you reading? You said original Srimad Bhagavatam?
I'm just reading the purports that are being given from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the 10th canto that Gopi Pranadhan Prabhu and Hridayananda Maharaj completed. And the very last verse here, it says, an ordinary person is determined to act on his desires even when fate prevents their fulfillment. This is Akrura speaking. It's Akrura speaking to Kamsa. An ordinary person is determined to act on his desires even when fate prevents their fulfillment. Therefore, he encounters both happiness and distress. Yet, even though such is the case, I will execute your order. And in the purport, it states that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that although what Akrura said was courteous and encouraging, his hidden meaning was far different. What he really meant was, your plan is not fit to execute, yet I will carry it out, since you are the king and I am your subject. And in any case, you are about to die.
So he was helping to speed up the death of Kamsa.
Total diplomat. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's interesting that they, I did read all of the Bhagavatams, even the ones done after Prabhupada left.
Yes.
But it's been years and years ago. But
too.
It's interesting that Srila Prabhupada used Sridhar Maharaj for his commentaries and purports.
Mm-hmm.
That's the early Sridhar Maharaj.
Not
the one before
Maharaj,
Lord Chaitanya.
Sridhar, the one that they said anyone who doesn't, Sridhar Swami. That's
prior to Lord Chaitanya's time.
Prior to Lord Chaitanya's time. And Lord Chaitanya said to, was it Balabacharya? Anyone who doesn't accept the Swami is a prostitute, because Swami also means husband. So Prabhupada used Vishwanath Chakravarti. Prabhupada used Sridhar Maharaj, Swami, not Maharaj, Sridhar Swami mostly for his commentaries. He had a huge book with all the commentaries of Sridhar Maharaj that he traveled with.
So Nityalila, you're the only one that hasn't read.
And
Yes, go ahead.
we have someone else. I forgot your name from Malaysia suddenly.
Oh, is Shuddha Sindhu here?
Sudha Sindhu is here.
Oh, great. Okay.
I forgot your name for a moment.
Hare Krishna. It's okay.
She's so humble, you don't even know she's here.
I know she didn't.
Great listener.
So neither of them have read.
Oh, you got the screen. Haribol.
Oh.
Jai, welcome back to Hari.
Oh,
Oh, Jai.
No
So,
obeisance.
Nityalila, would you like to start? So to read some, get back to some nectar of instruction here. We finished both commentaries by Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj the other day. Now we're starting verse 2. So would you like to start, Nityalila, 2 paragraphs?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Once devotional service is spoiled when
You can't see the Sanskrit?
actually I don't have laptop today, so
Oh,
unable
okay.
to read full lines. Yeah, so sorry.
Atyahara prayashascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangash chaloyam cha sadbir bhaktir vinashyati. Go ahead, please.
I am unable to actually read full lines because of
Oh,
cell
I
phone
see.
usage.
Okay,
I'm trying. Yeah, I tried but could not. Yeah, so sorry.
please.
I read the translation, right?
Yes.
Okay. Once devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically, associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and being greedy for mundane achievement. Purport: human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. Since all conditioned living beings are under the control of the Lord's third energy, this material world is designed so that one is obliged to work. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has 3 primary energies or potencies. The first is called Antaragan Sakti, or the internal potency. The second is called Tatashta Sakti, or the marginal potency. The third is called Bahiranga Sakti, or the external potency. The living entities constitute the marginal potency, and they are situated between the internal and external potency. Being subordinate as external servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Jivatmas or atomic living entities must remain under the control of either the internal or external potency. When they are under the control of the internal potency, they display their natural constitutional activity, namely constant engagement in the devotional service of the Lord. This is stated in the Bhagavad Gita 9.13. Mahatmanastu mampatya Daivim prakim asti asvitaha bhajanti anasha manaso Jinatva buradin avyayam.
I have to find peace.
O son of Prita, those who are not deluded, could you scroll up the screen, Gaura Prabhu? The great souls are under the protection of the divine nature.
My older brother Ella said to come up.
They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. The word Mahatma refers to those who are broad-minded, not cripple-minded.
Triple-minded persons always engage in satisfying their senses, sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others through some ism, like nationalism, humanitarianism, or altruism. They may reject personal sense gratification for the sense gratification of others, like members of their family, community, or society, either national or international. Actually, all this is extended sense gratification from personal to communal to social. This may all be very good from the material point of view, but such activities have no spiritual value. The basis of such activity is sense gratification, either personal or extended. But such activities have no, only when a person gratifies the senses of the Supreme Lord can be called a Mahatma or broad-minded person. In the above quoted verse.
Okay, excuse me, that's been a few more than 2 paragraphs.
Okay.
Appreciate your enthusiasm though.
Thank you.
Okay, in the line here, I've got Baba Trini as the next person, then Jivan Mukta, and then Nitya Leela. That's the way everyone's lining up. Baba Trini, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Nuri Hari hasn't read yet. Can you read?
Okay, I didn't see him here. Okay.
Oh, he's there. Can
Nuri
you
Hari,
read?
we haven't heard from you. Where are you? I don't see. Oh yeah, there you are. Okay. In the above quoted from Bhagavad Gita, are you able to read, Nuri Hari?
I think he's driving, isn't he?
Oh, he's not answering. Okay. Okay, so I guess I'll read.
Yes, please. And then Jivan.
Okay. In the above quoted verse from Bhagavad Gita, the words Daivim Prakritim refer to the control of the internal potency or pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This pleasure potency is manifested as Srimati Radharani, or her expansion Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. When the individual jiva souls are under the control of the internal energy, their only engagement is the satisfaction of Krishna or Vishnu. This is the position of a Mahatma. If one is not a Mahatma, he is a Duratma or cripple-minded person. Such mentally crippled Duratmas are put under the control of the Lord's external potency, Mahamaya. Indeed, all living entities within this material world are under the control of Mahamaya, whose business is to subject them to the influence of threefold miseries, Adi Daivika Klesha, suffering caused by the demigods, such as droughts, earthquakes, and storms, Adi Bhotika Klesha, suffering caused by other living entities like insects or enemies, and Adhyatmika Klesha, suffering caused by one's own body and mind, such as mental and physical infirmities. Daiva Bhutatma Hetava, the conditioned souls subjected to these 3 miseries by the control of the external energy suffer various difficulties. Was that 2?
Yeah, it was Jiva Mukta, and then Shuddha Sindhu, and
is this Prabhupada's?
Yes, this is Srila Prabhupada's
commentary.
Correct.
The main problem confronting the conditioned souls is the repetition of birth, old age, disease, and death. In the material world, one has to work for the maintenance of the body and soul. But how can one perform such work in a way that is favorable for the execution of Krishna consciousness? Everyone requires possessions such as food grains, clothing, money, and other things necessary for the maintenance of the body. But one should not collect more than necessary for his actual basic needs. If this natural principle is followed, there will be no difficulty in maintaining the body. According to nature's arrangement, living entities lower on the evolutionary scale do not eat or collect more than necessary. Consequently, in the animal kingdom, there is generally no economic problem or scarcity of necessities. If a bag of rice is placed in a public place, birds will come to eat a few grains and go away. A human being, however, will take away the whole bag. He will eat all his stomach can hold and then try to keep the rest in storage. According to scriptures, this collecting of more than necessary, atyahara, is prohibited. Now the entire world is suffering because of it.
I'm just thinking that we're covering a lot of ground here, and I don't want to challenge anybody because I don't know if everyone's taking notes of the points that come into their head, but would anyone like to comment on anything we've read so far?
I'd just like to say that I know that in the villages in India, from my readings, there used to be it was the responsibility of the leaders, of the kings, it's responsibility of the fathers, in a sense, to also, have storehouse of grain. I mean, like the leader of the village would have way more than necessary. So, for even in Vrindavan, there was always so much food, so much milk products.
Like surplus, you mean?
Surplus, so much that they would trade, and of course they would store, they would make yogurt. And so it wasn't just like the bird that would take a few grains and go away. In human society, we also have to consider that there has to be that sense of security, food security as well, which means that you have to have some extra.
But it sounds like Srila Prabhupada is saying that the entire world is suffering because of taking more than necessary. So he must not be referring to a village being managed and people storing things in a certain way. There must, just like if you live in a place that gets cold in the winter, you have to store food for the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And even there's some animals and insects that do that. So
we would also have to, we also, for example, here in the north, you have to store wood. Like if you're heating with a wood fireplace, right? You have to store wood. You have to have lots of wood to keep you alive through the winter.
So I'm sure this isn't referring to that.
No.
But I
about greed.
It's talking about greed. Yeah. Are we going to read more? Because Connor hasn't read.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he read once in the beginning.
Yeah, but he didn't begin.
Yeah, sure. Actually, my neighbor Marnie came to visit, and she said she has a question. She just dropped in.
That's my last name.
Your last name's Italian. Iocco. Did you have a question, Marnie?
Yes, I have a question. So when I feel all this terribleness in the world for how people are very selfish, especially when I go beyond myself to be very giving and kind, and then I feel that retaliation from them that they don't respect it, where do I go with this?
Anyone have a response from Marnie? Could you hear her question?
I heard her question. What do you mean? Where do you go with this? Because you see,
I am very kind and giving and grateful, and I try and help and do what I can to be great. Hi, people. It's Marnie. Hi. When I go and try and help people and they're ungrateful.
How do you deal with that?
How do I put that in a place where I almost feel like saying, wow, I just did that all for you, and I did that for you, and then now you're and disrespectful. Where do I put someone who's disrespectful towards my soul?
I'm thinking you can forgive them.
I do.
Anyone else?
Well, in one of our central teachings, which is the Bhagavad Gita, it recommends that everything you do, you can do as a service to God. So you're actually doing it.
It's a kind of
yeah. So that allows you to be more detached from whatever, reaction there may be from other people. You simply are offering up everything that you do, your charity, your good deeds, your work, everything. And that's called karma yoga. So that's a very helpful way of framing it, because it allows you to step back from expectations that you might have of being treated in a certain way or reciprocated in a certain way with other people, because other people can always let you down and not be perhaps how you'd like them to be. But if you're offering it up in service, then that's a way that, where you can put it, so to speak. That would be my feedback.
Thank you, Nandapatni. Anyone else for Marnie before we move on?
It's like, are you a mother?
Yes.
Okay. At different times you're doing so much loving service to your child, and they're kicking you or screaming or not appreciative.
Grabbing your heel or something while you're on the phone. Yep.
Yeah. So that's unconditional love. But we're always looking for reciprocation. But if you just love someone because they're your child or something like that, even if they don't reciprocate, you still love them. So actually, we're meant to love and serve God, and everyone else will disappoint us and let us down, but God will never let us down. So that love that you're giving, like she was saying, you're giving it, the love and the service, you're giving it to God. And the person that's actually being the recipient of it may not appreciate it, but God is never ungrateful. And so you continue doing your service to God and loving God, and that it's always beneficial to you and everyone else.
My hands up. Can I say one thing to all you people?
Sure.
This is my friend. And I would like to say this. This is my good lingo. I'll be true to myself 100%.
Okay. Who was the last to read?
Jivan Mukta? Was it Jivan Mukta?
I was the last one to read.
Okay,
Yeah.
what was the last? Now the entire world is suffering. Or was the last line you read, in this natural principle is followed? What was the last sentence?
We're on the paragraph, collecting and eating more than necessary now.
Oh, you did more than
Now the entire world is suffering because of it. That was the last sentence.
Yeah. Okay. So Connor Prabhu, would you like to read the next two paragraphs? Collecting and eating.
Sure. Collecting and eating more than necessary also causes prayasa, or unnecessary endeavor. By God's arrangement, anyone in any part of the world can live very peacefully if he has some land and a milk cow. There is no need for man to move from one place to another to earn a livelihood, for one can produce wheat grains locally and get milk from cows. That can solve all economic problems. Fortunately, man has been given higher intelligence for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness, for the understanding of God, one's relationship with him, and the ultimate goal, like love of God. Unfortunately, so-called civilized man, not caring for God realization, utilizes his intelligence to get more than necessary and simply eats to satisfy the tongue. By God's arrangement, there is sufficient scope for the production of milk and grains for human beings all over the world. But instead of using their higher intelligence to cultivate God consciousness, so-called intelligent men misuse their intelligence to produce many unnecessary and unwanted things. Thus, factories, slaughterhouses, brothels, and liquor shops are opened. If people are advised not to collect too many goods, eat too much, or work unnecessarily to possess artificial amenities, they think they are being advised to return to a primitive way of life. Generally, people do not like to accept plain living and high thinking. That is their unfortunate position. Human life is meant for
Okay,
God.
Nandapatni, you're next. And then Jivan, no, then see, it's all makes.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Whoops. I think that's Siri talking here. Shut up, Siri.
I haven't read in a while.
Oh, Krishna Chandra. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, is it? I should read now?
Yes, please.
Human life. Yeah.
Thank you. Human life is meant for God realization. And the human being is given higher intelligence for this purpose. Those who believe that this higher intelligence is meant to attain a higher state should follow the instructions of the Vedic literatures. By taking such instructions from higher authorities, one can actually become situated in perfect knowledge and give real meaning to life. In Srimad Bhagavatam 129, Sri Shuta Goswami describes the proper human dharma in this way. Dharmasya hi apavargyasya narto artayo kalpate nartasya dharmai kantasya kamolabhaya hi smitaha. All occupational activities, dharma, are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service, dharma, should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification.
I'd just like to make a brief comment that I was reading in this one book called Living with the Scriptures by Satsarup Maharaj. I remember him saying that Srila Prabhupada said, this verse is the most important verse in the whole Bhagavatam.
Really?
Yeah, I was surprised.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Okay. Now, who hasn't read? Because everything is... Sorry?
Shall I?
Yes, please.
Okay. The first step is human civilization consists of occupational engagements performed according to the scriptural injunctions. The higher intelligence of a human being should be trained to understand basic dharma. In human society, there are various religious conceptions characterized as Hindu, Christian, Hebrew, Mohammedans, Buddhist, and so on. For without religion, Hindu society is no better than animal society. As stated above, dharmasya hai aparvagasya nartho rathyo kalpate. Religion is meant for attaining emancipation, not for getting bread. Sometimes human society manufactures a system of so-called religion aimed at material advancement, but that is far from the purpose of true dharma. Religion entails understanding the laws of God because the proper execution of these laws ultimately leads one out of material entanglement. That is the true purpose of religion. Unfortunately, people accept religion for material prosperity because of atyahara or an excessive desire for such prosperity. True religion, however, instructs people to be satisfied with the bare necessities of life while cultivating Krishna consciousness. Even though we require economic development, true religion allows it only for supplying the bare necessity of material existence. Jitvasya tattva jinasha, the jignasa. The real purpose of life is to inquire about the absolute truth. If one endeavors, prayasya, is not to inquire about the absolute truth, we will simply increase our endeavor to satisfy our artificial needs. A spiritual aspirant should avoid mundane endeavor. I would like to comment here.
Okay.
I see like its observation that having possession also helps in Krishna consciousness. People get more inspired and more connected when they see that influential people are also into this movement. So we need to be on top of our game, whatever we do, being in any occupation, being in any situation. We need to be at top of the game. And that also influences. That is another theory. I mean, you would be accumulating more, but you would be utilizing in Krishna's service. And that will also influence to a greater masses.
Yes. Prabhupada used to say, make $1 million, spend $1 million. So you use everything in Krishna's service.
Yeah.
But he
Then he also said, he also said about temples, becoming opulent or something, that they're not just for sleeping. And if you have money, print books, distribute books.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can think of in the Christian church over the centuries, the way it became very opulent, the monasteries became very opulent, the papacy in Rome became really opulent. And, that's the slippery slope, if you will. I often wondered exactly what he meant by this, why he emphasizes this a number of times in his writings. And in our last session, we were discussing, or the one before maybe, about being very vigilant. I think you were there, Nichalila, where maybe Mahabodhi was there or something, where I think he was pointing out that you have to be very careful within yourself to not be affected by the fame and position of people that you may be cultivating. I think you were commenting on that, Jivan Mukta, were you not?
Yeah.
Do you remember that conversation?
I think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to be very vigilant, because you can, I think the point was made that you may cultivate someone that's tremendously important, and they might find their way onto your board of directors, and then they hold sway on your organization. So
right.
It's a very fine line. Yeah,
I remember that too.
That was, I think Mahabodhi Prabhu was saying something that, about not being, how Lord Chaitanya shunned the, really wealthy people, and how ISKCON seems to, do the opposite, how we're drawn to them, or
Catering.
But my point was that it's not, if you help them engage their resources in Krishna service, if you don't become attached or affected, then that's why Prabhupada's I don't have the history that Mahabodhi Prabhu and a lot of these other original Prabhupada disciples have, but I always saw that as one of the objectives of the life membership program, is just to get people engaged and to help them utilize their resources for Krishna service. But it's just like everything. I mean, you have devotees who, like Raghunath Das Goswami, and you have devotees like what's the devotee? My mind's just spaced out.
Ananda Goswami.
Lord Chaitanya's who discussed the gopis with Lord Chaitanya.
Ramananda Roy.
Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy was, also a very wealthy, individual. And it's just a question of not being attacked, not being affected, not being attached. That's all. It's just, and Rupa Goswami says that renunciation isn't renouncing, you know, the opulences of this world. It's just properly utilizing them. That it really just comes down to that.
I've been having real bad nightmares lately.
Okay, hold on. Anasaktasya Vishayan, Rupa Goswami says that if you have a chance to engage something in Krishna's service, but you fail to do that, that is incomplete renunciation.
Exactly.
And my older brother, who's schizophrenic, tells me to come up to the Hare Krishners and tell him to shave my head.
Okay.
Am I allowed to do that?
No, Marnie, excuse me. please continue, Jivan Mukta.
It's a fair.
You can control that.
This here.
Okay, Marnie.
Earl says to shave it.
Okay.
Just start by chanting. Don't worry about your hair. Start by chanting the holy name. Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna.
The holy
Krishna,
name is the name
Krishna.
of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost.
And that's
I was raised Catholic.
so were we.
So was I.
Yeah.
So
Me
did
too.
I.
As was I.
Me
Yes.
too. Yep.
Many Catholics here.
My palms are sweating.
Okay,
Krishna.
it's 9 o'clock now. It's a little after 9 for me.
I've never done this.
So
before.
Gora,
I've even been like over a screen or anything.
Yeah, I didn't have the heart. I didn't have heart to turn her. She asked if she could come in. So anyway, I'm glad
Hare
you could.
Krishna.
Glad you could meet some of my friends.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Actually, she's the only one in the building of 8 people that when she sees me, she says Hare Krishna.
And
Wonderful.
he makes really
Right.
good food.
That's
He
wonderful.
makes good food. He's a weird duck. He lives above me. I live downstairs. Bam Bam. I call him Bam Bam.
You know, we were just reading today about Agyata Sukriti, right? We were just reading about that, and this is exactly, you know, what's happening is that, you know, the benefit that is being derived from your association and hearing and chanting and taking prasadam is something that, you know, can't be conceived of the person receiving that mercy, but it's so powerful, you know, it's so beneficial.
He's saying that you're being blessed.
I don't know how to chant.
You don't know how to chant? I'll show you whenever you're ready.
Well, when am I going to?
We could all chant together now.
Yeah, let's chant.
Why
I
not?
always have sweaty palms.
Yes,
Okay.
you're right.
This will cure your sweaty palms. Holy name. It has everything in it. God and his name are non-different. So he gives you everything, and everything that you desire will come.
Jai.
Just
So we,
chant.
so we can chant a mantra or two
So
together.
you can pray
Okay.
for Marnie Sabrina Ayoko, who my daughter Shayna Brielle Turgeon and Jaden and Nathan are in Austin, having not to speak it to their mom.
Okay, so let's speak the holy
They
name
will
together.
speak to me again.
So we'll
Let's
chant a
chant Hare
mantra.
Krishna now with you.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
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 Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare
Jai.
Jai.
Sarah, you chanted your first Hare Krishna mantra.
Yay, Pamani, Hare Krishna.
You're very lucky because Bora is a very good resource. He knows a lot about many different anecdotes and stories. So if you have any questions, it's good. He's only 1 floor above you. He's halfway across the continent or country for me.
Yay.
Go through Glenn.
Yeah. Actually, all my friends know me as Bora. That's my spiritual name.
Okay.
But
Well, I'll
Glenn's
get a
on my
spiritual-
post office. Yeah.
Hey, they call me Marnie Marbles. You know, I just know that I love God, whoever he might be, wherever what it might be. I'm very giving, I'm very grateful, I'm very kind, and I'm very sad, and I'm very lost. And I hope I find myself soon.
Krishna
Very
led you here.
soon.
This is
You're on
Krishna.
your way. You're on your way.
Some of the
So I can play the flute.
He can, he
some
plays
of
The right
our
place.
some of our best insights come when we're the most lost anyway.
Tired of shedding so many tears.
yeah. Well, that's why
We're in a sad place.
we come together to get closer to Krishna so that we won't cry too much. But it's good to cry for Krishna.
But
Praise
I'm not
the
crying.
Lord.
I'm crying for my own side. Like I don't know
Right.
him yet. God.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know him yet.
It's a gradual process.
You know, I can say those words, God grant, or I could say in the name of the Father and the Son and the
Right.
Holy, and our Father. And I could say so many things like this, but I don't know
Yeah.
him.
But if you associate with these people, you'll know him.
It's a lifelong journey, but you can get there.
Yeah, my older brother who's schizophrenic just said, go up and see the Hare Krishna.
That's
For real,
wonderful.
and said, tell him to shave your head. Like it really, like I don't know.
I don't think I'll do that to you.
But to believe in some beautiful, powerful being, because we are.
Yes, we're part of him. That's why we're beautiful. The soul is beautiful.
I need to find myself. It's really what it is.
Mhm.
And for whatever it might be. I don't know if it's Hare Krishna or if it's, I don't know what it is yet. But this is a start. I feel already better. I feel tingly. And my palms are not sweating anymore. So that's weird.
The mantra, the Krishna's name has a very positive effect on us. So it's very good to chant it whenever whether you're feeling up or down.
I do it just for fun for you. Hare Krishna. I like
I
and there's
can't-
Lenny makes the best. You make it the best for like food. Like,
I can't speak on behalf of everybody else here. I don't know how everybody else is, but I know that when I ended up coming to Hare Krishna and Krishna consciousness is when I was lost and didn't know where the hell to go. And one little step led to another. And next thing you know, as I was in the temple, it was like, okay, this is where I have to be. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Connor, you're in Edmonton right now?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, so Connor's in Edmonton and Bhavatrini is in Hawaii. Jivan Mukta is up in Wasaga Beach. Shruta Sindhu is in Malaysia.
does anybody have anything to say to me about stop being so hard on myself?
In a way, in a material sense, I used to be the same way. But it shows that you're human. You don't have a hardened heart. And that's going to do you more good than anything. It just be easy on yourself too, because we all, as humans, we're all going to make flaws.
Anyone have any other comment from Marnie? How to avoid being too hard on herself?
And he's allowed to plant outside my window come the spring.
I'd like to say something if I can.
Go ahead.
In the Bhagavad Gita, one of the most important things that we learn is that the path of God is through devotional service, whether it's devotional service to God directly, specifically, or to his devotees. So it's really best, how do you render that service? And you have to do it with a sense of abandon. Like if you're hard on yourself, it's an inhibition that it will hurt, it will impede your ability to render that devotional service. So by letting go of that inhibition, you will be able to make better spiritual progress.
What do you mean by inhibition?
The inhibition in the form of being hard on oneself. That's what I meant.
Uh-huh.
Hey, look, I've picked up so many people and cleaned up so much of their stuff all along the way. I do not have inhibition. I just am lost. And I need to find myself again. And who am I going to call on to say, help me find Marnie? Marnie
Gora.
wants
There's Gora.
prayer.
Right
Oh, you got
there.
Gora right there.
You got him. Krishna has sent you to the person who can help you. And one of the primary things is that Krishna will And Gora will direct you how to come to understand who you are. Our confusion begins there because we don't understand that we're eternal spiritual beings. Our misery begins by our identification with these awful material bodies and our efforts to try to find happiness through these material bodies. So until we understand that delusion is causing our misery and our suffering and our tears, then we can't go anywhere. So Krishna begins the Bhagavad Gita by teaching us that we're not these physical bodies. We're not our minds. You're not your mind either. Our minds drive us crazy. That's what makes us crazy. All these, these mixed up desires. So Gora is there, and he has all of the literature, divine literature, directly coming from Krishna himself. So you have already started your way back to God. It's the most auspicious thing. You're so fortunate. You can be very, very happy.
Something drew you there. Just go for it. Go with it.
Marnie's saying that she has to learn how not to give in to her weaknesses.
We all do. Marnie,
Yeah.
You're not alone. We're all in the same boat.
Yep.
Looking to you.
It's a descending process. You have to give it to God, give it to Krishna, and then he will help you. Even Arjuna said, Krishna said, you have to control the mind. And he said, the mind is more difficult to control than the wind. But we can't do it, but Krishna can. So the process is that the mercy comes down to you. You just have to be sincere and ask him to help you. And Gora can help you with this.
When I said that I want to give
Do
in
the
to
effort.
weaknesses, I meant to say that I want to just let myself go so that I can feel that.
Oh, hi there.
Hi.
Hi, Nicole.
Who's this, Nachilila?
Nice to meet you.
He is my niece. Hare Krishna करे सबको.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. What's her
He
name?
is right. Yeah, they are asking your name. Tell them name. Say
Apita?
loudly.
Nice.
Apita.
He is going for school. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Go back. Go to your room. Go back to bed.
No, she's going to school. She's going to school.
Oh, she's off to school now.
Nirihari, you're the only one that didn't read tonight. Are you able to, or are you still traveling?
I'm driving right now. Yes, I can.
Okay. All right. So let's
I
convene.
tried to speak, but it didn't go through.
Oh, okay. All right. So I
So
hope
maybe-
I hope I can get Mahabudhi to come back.
And sorry for interrupting this evening.
Not at all.
No, you're
Yeah.
always welcome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just want to have feel something for I don't feel all that guilt and pain and weight on my shoulders.
Can I share a verse in the Bhagavad Gita? Is it
Go ahead.
okay?
But I probably will not understand it. He'll explain it to me. Perhaps.
No. You just give the English.
Okay, just the English, no problem. This is chapter 2, verse 14. O son of Kunti, that's Arjuna, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception. O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed.
Do you eat meat?
Never. Well, not for 20 years since I met the devotees.
None of the devotees here, none of them eat meat. They don't eat
5
meat.
years for me.
Supposedly the deer are getting the new COVID.
Well, everyone is suffering due to the material world.
I'm not a materialistic person, you can see so.
Okay.
It's not about being a materialistic person. It's the fact that we're all trapped in the materialistic world.
We're spiritual beings having a material experience.
And sometimes that material experience sucks.
So you just
No,
keep saying Hare Krishna and eating the food that Gora offers to you, because it's been offered to Krishna. Just by eating it, you'll develop love of God.
What food does he offer?
When I
What
offered
food
it,
are you guys allowed to eat?
Oh, Al, wonderful food. Gora can tell you all about it. But if you chant Hare Krishna, you will be happy. So you're on the right road.
I had baby turtles growing outside my window in the spring. Snapping turtles. I guess I could have ate a snapping turtle.
no, we can't offer that to Krishna. No meat, no fish, no eggs, no chicken, no turtles.
Are they flowers?
So when a mom makes a baby and she eats and she puts a baby on her breast and the baby drinks from her breast, the milk, that's okay?
Of course.
We drink milk in
The
the
mom
cow,
had to have to take of the food to put it into her body to do that.
It can be
That's a milk.
Can be vegetarian. too.
That's milk.
Yeah, but
I was never always a vegetarian. I ate meat and I nursed all 4 of my children.
But one can be a mother without having to eat any meat.
And no, I'm not flashing my boobs
But
to the high commissioners, even though I want to right now.
No. Okay. So
Okay, so we'll see everybody on. We'll see everybody.
Nice white teeth. I bet you bleached them.
We'll see you on.
Imagine your children wanted to eat you because they
My
had milk from
children
you.
can
What do we
eat
get?
me any day. Whenever they call me and say, hi, mom, they can eat me, no problemo.
Okay, this conversation is getting pretty.
Got to with
So we'll
that.
see you on
Yeah, pretty
Friday.
weird.
Then I hope I get my Mahabudhi on for
Yeah,
Friday.
I'm coming. We come with a shaved head.
no thanks. Women don't
I'm
shave their
doing
heads.
it.
Women in the Hare Krishna movement do not shave their heads.
Oh, do they shave their private nothing?
Oh, boy.
Arm, legs?
Okay, Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha, Krishna Evacha, Patitanam,
Bhavnebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo,
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Don't
Nitai
worry
Gaur
about it. He
Ki.
invited me up here.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Haribo. Very nice talking to you people. That was adorable. That was lovely. Thank you. You've all made me feel so much better, honest. I swear, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost.
Amen.